In this lesson, we'll take a look at some of the new HTML5 attributes. You're already familiar with a handful of them, but let's do a refresher in this lesson. The first one is placeholder. And we can set this to a value, and we'll say, enter your name. And now you can see what we used to do with JavaScript is now being done natively in the browser, and this provides additional hints. When you click on it, it disappears. So now you don't need to worry about using JavaScript solutions. However, once again, if you need that placeholder to be there, and it's more than just a hint, it tells them exactly what to enter, or a format, be careful, because older browsers, that placeholder is going to be ignored and they won't see anything at all. So keep that in the back of your mind. The next one is required. Now before this with way area, there were ways to specify for accessibility reasons, this input must be filled out. But now we can remove that and use this HTML5 attribute. If we try to submit it without entering anything, now we get an alert saying, hey, you gotta fill this out. So that's an easy way to add an additional layer of validation. Next, we come to pattern, and this is a way to specify with your own regular expression what is required. So if I want somebody to enter their age, I can say the pattern is I want to look for at least 1 digit, but a maximum of 3 digits. And that way we can accept an age of 9, or an age of 90, or even an age of 101. So let's add a little bit more here, and let's switch the input type to number. And now they can either tick it if they want, or they can type what they want. My age is 50, and if we click submit, that successfully submits. And in this case, it's fooling with JSPin. So let's save this. There we go. Now what's important to keep in mind though is even though we have this pattern here and we specified that we're looking for at least 1 digit, if we do not have the required attribute, watch. I click it and it still submits. And I think this one's a little bit odd. My pattern should specify that, hey, there has to be at least 1 number here for it to submit. But this seems to be a common issue, so you'll want to be careful. And if there has to be at least something, make sure that you add on that required attribute as well. Now, what if for some reason you want to specify that the browser should ignore its built-in validation here? Maybe we have an input type of email, and we'll remove these right here. And we want to say, I want to be able to submit this even if a non-valid email address is submitted. We can add an attribute here that says form no validate. And now if I click submit, it will process. Now this can either be applied to the form element or to an input. Now additionally with forms, there are of course attributes that are specific to certain input types. So if we return to the input type of range, we know that we can specify a minimum and a maximum, but we can also specify the step. And that means what is each step when we click it? 1 step, 2 step. And we can say each step is 5. And what that means is there's only going to be a total of 3 steps, 0, 5, and 10. Now we don't have time to cover every single attribute. There's quite a few, but I want you to take a look at State of HTML5 Forms. And this was created by, I believe, Chris Coyer, and it's an excellent resource to keep up to date on what the browsers do and do not support. So if we scroll down, we can see a lot of the input types that we've already learned about. There's also a date time one, and this allows us to specify even with month, week, time. And we come down here, some attributes. We've learned about placeholder. There's also an autofocus, max length. Here's required and pattern that we've learned about, form no validate. So be sure to bookmark this and come back to it when you're working on your forms because there's a lot of fun stuff to play with.